What do you see for the future of loan officers?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think this next decade is going to be very telling. I said a lot about this a few years ago that over the next 36 months we were going to see a fallout of loan officers that couldn't really compete in the modern era. But what I would say now is like, it's funny because every time that I think we're getting to that point, we get some sort of stay of execution, as I like to
Right,
call it.
rates.
So like, yeah. So if you remember like the end of 2018,
Oh
beginning of
yeah.
2019, margin compression was all the talk. There was, and look, I as someone that was in a lot of vendor masterminds and consulting to a lot of companies with access to boardrooms and executives, I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of lenders that are doing great, had record years this year, that were 2 to 3 months away from insolvency
Yep.
at the beginning of 2019, that we're talking about mergers, having to sell their book, whatever it happens to be. And so no one wants to remember those times. They just remember, and then we got the rate hit, and so they got a stay of execution. And so I remember being brought in to talk at an event to talk about early 2019 and saying, look, you guys got to remember that those times will come back again, make hay, but don't forget where we were and where we will be again, right? And so we're looking at it today, right? We're looking at the mortgage market, and what's going to happen today is like then COVID hit, and then you can't kick a can without hitting 10 deals or something like that, right? And so I would say is that if you're a loan officer and a loan officer that's been in the business for a while, right, pre-COVID, 28 to 5 years or whatever, if you struggled in 2020, it's going to be very hard for you the next decade, right? I'm hoping that you're investing in coaching. I'm hoping you're investing in creating relationships and lead generation and understanding technology and marketing and things of that, and understanding that you are the I don't care if you work for a bank. I don't care if you work for a retail IMB or a brokerage. You are your own brand. You are the CEO of your own business. Even if you don't run that business, but you are the CEO, it's going to be very hard for you to doing business going forward if you had a challenging 2020, because look, it just is with the rates and with we did the most that the NBA is forecasting that we did that we'll do 3 trillion or
3 trillion.
something,
Mm-hmm.
3 trillion this year, and the next year is next year is gonna be worse, but it's still gonna be the third best, forecast to be the third best year ever.
And the
And
purchase
this was
business, the
for
best.
yeah. And so if you were, my thing is that, look, you have to be purchase focused, right? And I actually had the kind of somewhat of a debate with a loan officer at like 10 o'clock at night, a couple nights ago, with that based off of my newsletter, with what I was putting is like, look, yeah, make hay, do the refi business, but the smarter play would have been to hire somebody to do the refi business, to keep those relationships, and you to not shy away from your agent relationships. Do not shy away from the purchase business, because I'm going to tell you, when that, and we're looking at losing up to 50% of refi business going in the next year, and also understanding rates are pretty damn low. And so those
One
refi
tick up.
opportunities, yeah, those refi opportunities are not like, because even if we go to like what would still be low rates at like 3.25, 3.5, and but you just refied this guy for 2.25. You just refied for this guy for 2.5, and so that refi opportunity is gone forever, or at least for a long time, until they so if you were focused on refi business and you neglected the purchase side, you lost out to. I knew a lot of loan officers that were just, and still are cleaning up on relationships, are
Yeah.
cleaning up on purchase business, because they saw the opportunity. Because guess what, it doesn't matter if you clean up on refi. It matters because refi isn't an ongoing thing. Purchasing is an ongoing channel, right? For the long term. Refis are market specific and rate specific, right? It Purchase is not. When someone needs to buy a house, they're going to buy a house, because guess what? We bought houses when rates were 11% and 13% and 17%. Purchase business still happened, right? So that looking at the next decade, loan officers, look, you got to focus on modernizing your experience, right?
Yep.
Have
Yep.
an online option. I literally had loan officers that came to me when this started happening. They said, I do not have a digital way for loan officers or for clients to fill out an application. What should I use? And I'm like, geez, I'm like, this is 2020. Are you kidding me? You don't have an online option for a mortgage app? So, hooking up people with like Flowify and other services and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. Like, use those. Like, they're
Just
out of the
get in the
box.
game.
Sign up, get in the game, sign up for us now. But that's the thing is, like, look, you got to modernize your experience. You have to create a good consumer experience overall. That means communication, meet consumers where there are. So, some even, as lockdowns ease and we start traveling more and whatever, it doesn't mean people are going to be comfortable coming to your office. It doesn't mean, people are comfortable. And if you had a hard time talking to people on Skype or whatever, it's not going to get any easier unless you get into the game and start doing these things on a consistent basis. Embrace the technology, understand that you are a marketer. You have to be a marketer if you're going to be a successful loan officer. And just understand the specifics. If busy, and hire that out. But the problem is that, like, you got to understand a little bit of it, right? Like, if you're going to hire somebody to do it for you, that's great, but you got to understand a little bit. You got to understand the message you want to put out there. You want to understand the brand that you're bringing to the market. What's the differentiator? What's your value prop? All these things are important, right?
Yeah.
So, the future for loan officers, one is, margin compression will come back. It always does. So margin compression will come back. So you got to understand, like, are you in the best position long term for your business as far as like what you're making, and if you're only at a place because you're making a certain amount and you're going to jump from place for comp to comp to comp, understand that as an industry as a whole, they're going to realize, just like agents are seeing right now, and eventually what ops people will be seeing, is a correction.
Yep.
And so I've already seen lenders that were paying like 150 bips that are decided, like, you know what, we're paying 92 now, right? And we're making, we'll make it up in volume and stuff. And loan officers like, well, now I'm going somewhere else. Eventually, that margin compression's really going to play a part in that. And even though lenders are making a good amount of money now, that isn't always going to hold true. So I'm going to definitely see consolidation in lenders. We're definitely going to see more competition in the channel, because guess what? There's a reason why. This is what cracks me up. Like, every loan officer that I talk to, when it looks at that half a percent fee, from the GSEs, right? If we're looking at, that hit, um, they're saying, oh, it's a tax. The government's trying to get in on that stuff. Every lender will say that, but then when I talk about, okay, do you think they're the only ones that see the opportunity that lenders are making a lot of money? No, you got fintech coming in that were already here. You got Quicken doubling down on partnerships. You got fintech lenders like Better Mortgage. You're going to have I get, and people don't understand this. Look, I'm in a couple different sourcing groups, and what those are is basically it's a bunch of consultants, so to speak, that hedge funds and private equity firms go to consult when they want to get into a certain industry, right? So it could be mortgage, it could be accounting, it could be travel, it could be whatever. I happen to be in it for the mortgage industry. I get requests every single week to do interviews with PE firms and with hedge funds to talk about how they're going to do a point of sale, to talk about Rocket Mortgage, to talk
Really?
about Better Mortgage, every single week. And we're talking, these are hedge funds and private equity with family offices, with billions under AUM, assets under management, right? So they see that this is an industry that is making a ton of money, and they'll figure out a way to get into it. And I could tell you, from being from the hedge fund world, if they want to figure out how to get into an industry and disrupt it, they're going to figure out how to get into an industry and disrupt it,
No
right?
question.
Regardless of what we're trying to do, right? And so that's one thing you got to understand from a loan officer. You're going to have you have competition that you don't even know about yet,
That's
right? That
right.
people are on the drawing board, right? It's not like Better Mortgage came up, as overnight, right? It happened over time. It was on the drawing board for all the time. There's a lot of LOS or POS companies, and some that I worked with in the beginning, and I can't get into it because of NDAs. But I'll tell you right now, those were happening years before people thought it was even going to be a thing, right? And here's the truth, guys, and this is what everyone needs to take to heart. And especially in this industry, the experts, the gurus, everybody, we're wrong most of the time. We
Yep.
are wrong about where we're going, what's going to happen, forecasting. We are wrong a majority of the time. We're wrong way more than we're right. And so you understand that you're going to have so much competition, things you don't even know about, but we're going to have we have competition. You have every major brokerage has his mortgage arm, right? You got Zillow, is a mortgage lender now, but for some reason the industry still thinks it's great to pay them for leads. I will never understand that. You have Quicken and all the partnerships that they're doing, right? And I'll tell you right now, I've had everything that's happening that's successful right now. I've had a loan officer way back in the day tell me that that would never be a thing. That
Right. Right.
consumers would never do a mortgage just on the internet.
Right.
Now I would never get any business off of Facebook. I'd never get any business off social media. You're wrong all of the time, right? And so like you got to understand that you're going to have competition, you're going to have all these different things coming from at you, and so you have to get with the game. You have to give
Man.
you have to give the experience what the consumer not just expects but what they demand, because they're getting it everywhere else. They cannot get to mortgage and go back 10 years, right? They have to have the same type of experience that they're getting everywhere else.
Jason, you're hitting it on the right on the head. I preach almost every day to our loan officers and the loan officers in my network about a lot of the same stuff. And I know if rates tick up a quarter of a percent, I mean the mood, managing the mood and the energy, first is like I actually have to go out and work now rather than just calling their leads that are falling on their lap. And a lot of them, a lot of the older ones that have been around a long time don't have it in them to go out and make sales calls. The other, like you said, now everybody's calling on that top real estate agent because the
Yep.
same thing's going to happen with real estate. It's not going to be booming forever. There's going to be a time where we get a little bit of a correction, and those realtors that are doing a deal or two a month won't be doing a deal two a month. So all the best loan officers around, and the best loan officers as you defined it, are the ones that are able to be, modernize the relationship and marketing skills. They're the ones you're competing with now. And yeah, I think there's going to be some challenging days ahead. I
Yep.
was in kind of a sick sort of way, when margin compression was happening. Um, I saw a bunch of companies that were on the edge too. I hope that in this time frame they've figured out how to I don't know, not right size, but manage
Yeah.
their business more effectively so that they don't crumble. One of the challenges that I've had since COVID, really from a business perspective, is just continuing to manage culture. I think one of the best things we had going for us was the energy inside our office, and people are having fun and originating lots of loans, and a lot of collaboration going on. It's still going on a little bit, but I do get concerned hiring a new loan officer. How do I bring them to our way? Are you seeing any innovative ideas outside of Zoom parties?
Yeah, it's tough, and because sometimes it just depends on the person that you're bringing in. So you're trying to get that culture. So one thing that we do, and I think it also helps with hiring the right people. So one thing we do is we like when we hire, we use a service called Wise Hire, right? And it's a service that I got from the guys, the coaches at Next Level. And the cool thing is that it's a great way to track recruits, but also it has disc and set. I'm a big believer in disc
I am
profiles,
too.
and so it has disc assessments built in for any job that you're doing, right? And so then you can check out the assessments. So even though it's not really something that you're doing, but to me it's like, look, the more that I understand about an applicant that I hire as far as like looking at their disc profile, the more that I know maybe I could tailor my orientation, onboarding, we call it connect here at EPM, but like we could tailor that experience to more meet with the type of individual that we're hiring, right? We're not using it as like if they don't have a certain disc, we don't hire them. It lets us know how we can
Right.
interact with that new team member the best way and more efficiently. I think for one is you try to make them feel connected, right? And because they're not coming in the office, maybe you guys are working up like on a nice gift box or something fun, or it doesn't have to be a lot of money, but just something that makes them feel welcome, like a note, a nice handwritten note from the CEO, or a nice welcome video that everyone puts together real quick and say, hey, here's his mobile phone or her mobile phone. Just text a 30-second hi, welcome to the team, right? Stuff like that. The Zoom thing is part of it, but you also, it's great. Like right now we're putting in, because we're a distributed workforce at EPM. Still not everyone comes into the office. I'm moving out to the Atlanta area in January-ish. I live in Utah, so when I joined EPM, I wasn't out here in the Atlanta area. I was back home in Utah. So with a distributed workforce, you got to try different things to do. Maybe it's springing for a dinner for, so we can't take you out to dinner, but here is a gift card to a local eatery, or here's $150, take your wife out for a welcome to EPM dinner or something. Find different ways to make them feel part of it, and then take a picture and send it to our marketing team so we can post it on social media, right? It's like, hey, we couldn't have you here
Those are
to
great
to take you
ideas.
out to dinner, something like, you just try to find ways to make, like I said, it doesn't have to be a lot of money, but just try to find nice ways to make someone feel welcome, because then you might find that it sticks even after all of this goes back to somewhat normal. And people, I could tell you right now, for us, we're probably never going to go back, for our company at least, we're never going to go back to having full boat here, where people have found out, like, hey, I get a lot more work done at home. It's not for everybody. If you don't have a home office and you have kids at home and stuff like that, it's probably you're probably dying to come into the
I
office.
surveyed our employees, and only one said that they want to come back. They all love working at home. So I'm trying to figure out how, maybe have an at work day or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, but prior to COVID, when processors asked me, can we work at home? I was always like, I don't want to get that into it, have
Yep.
that be the habit, and where you're
Yep.
not wanting to come in anymore. Well, now we're forced to, and like you said, that it forced change, and now I trust them working at home. I love working at home. And now it's, I just had an office redone, and it's gorgeous. And,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know if we're ever going to need
Yeah.
that kind of space anymore. We
Yeah.
shall see. So
Yeah.
what I wanted to ask you, so, you are, with your podcast, I mean, you're all about training and coaching loan officers. What are the common things you talk about? I mean, I know it's all over the board, but maybe the common mistakes or the common things you're trying to get originators to act on today.
Yeah, I would say, and I kind of mentioned it before, is don't get romantic about the way things used to be, right? And it's like, I
Yeah.
don't have to have those conversations with the newer loan officers, because they didn't know, they don't know any different. They weren't influenced by the way things used to be. So with the uh, taking ownership and accountability over the quality of what you do, right? And understand that, as a loan officer, yes, you are the engine that drives the car, because if you're not bringing in deals, then everybody else is going home to doing something else. But with that, with the engine, guess what? An engine on a stand is an engine on a stand that doesn't go anywhere, right? You need the wheels, you need the transmission, you need the steering wheel, you need a driver, right? Unless you're a Tesla. But even then, I guess they kind of need a driver, because they don't have the best track record when they don't. But even with that, right, you need the whole car. And so think about that when you're working with operations, and understand that it's a team effort, that we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to get the deal over the finish line. We're all trying to put a family into a house, or make someone's financial goals achieve, get their financial goals achieved. The dream of home ownership, wealth building, all of that. We're all on the same team. We can't be all on an island that is just me, 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 me. And this goes true for operations and stuff too. But from a loan officer perspective, understand that you need a solid team. Not only that, but you have to find a way to get out of your own way. You have to find a way to be able to
Hmm.
give up control, right? Because without a doubt, every single loan off, and I'm talking top producer loan officers, I'm talking ones that are like 18 plus units a month religiously. Every single one of them has told me two things. They said, I wish I would have built my team earlier, and I'm making more money with less work. Without it's 100%. There is no like maybe some, maybe not. Every single one, and all of them say the same thing. The reasons why they wish they would have done it sooner, they figured no one was going to care about the loan as much as they did. That no one was going to have as good as expertise as them. They couldn't give up control, right? But then they suffered, and they didn't grow as much, and realized that they'd sacrificed time with their family, and their wife and family, or
Yeah.
husband, their spouse and family, when they didn't have to. They could have made more money, instead of working, the hours that they were working on. And so when I talk to a loan officer, one is, and we talked about it. One, understand you're the CEO of your own brand, right? You have to understand marketing. You have to understand that marketing is going to be a huge part of what you do. Social media is not a fad, right? Get out of your own way, right? Be able to give up control and grow a team and understand that you are running a business. You are running a business and you need to act as if you act like an employee, you're going to get what an employee gets. If you act like an owner and an entrepreneur, the sky's the limit of what you can make, right? Either at the company you're at, like, look, even I know loan officers that are going to make over $1 million this year at a lender. They don't own the company, but they acted like they did. And I'll
Right.
tell you, the ones that they're competing against, you tell me this: if you're at the same branch and one loan officer's going to make $1 million this year, and you're only going to make, maybe six figures, right? What's the difference? And you've been in the business the same amount of time. What is that loan officer doing differently than you, right?
Yeah.
Understand that for everything that you tell yourself that won't work, everything that you tell me that is never going to work for your audience or for your customer base, I will find you a loan officer who does.
Yep. Yep. Everybody's has 24 hours, in the day. Nobody has more time. So I
Yep.
hear you. Wow. Anything else?
That's it, because I think one is people just need to start, because honestly, it all comes down with just getting out of their own way, right? We already mentioned and talked about it, but those are the reasons why. Is just like you have to realize that the industry, consumers are all moving forward, and you cannot stay stagnant. And it's not enough to not adapt or to accept change. Yes, you need to do that, but I'll tell you right now, the advantage is being a change creator, right? When you
Creator.
see
Yeah.
change happen, be on the forefront of that. Don't be one that's just that, because that's reactive. Be proactive and get into it, right? Be the change. Go in there and do stuff. Create something different. If you're reacting to it, that means that you're not at the forefront, and that means you're going to get less success than if you were, in front of it. But it all comes down to getting out of your own way and investing in yourself. Look, I know a lot of loan officers are going to make a ton of money. Guess what? I literally have had loan officers that I know that are going to be making, are making over 700 grand this year, and they're tripping over paying like $1,500 for a coaching course, or going or paying, $2,000 to go to a marketing conference or something that could truly help their business be better. Invest in yourself, man. Be the best, right? Don't assume that this is going to continue on that 2020 is going to be like 2021. It could be for a while, at least, maybe for the first half, but some other stuff we weren't
Who
planning for
knows?
COVID, guys, right?
That's
Like,
right.
COVID wasn't on our radar. I can tell you that, otherwise I would have done stuff way differently. But it just wasn't. And so you never know what's going to happen. So take the time to invest. If you invest in the marketing, you invest in coaching, so you become a mortgage advisor and a mortgage expert. You invest in yourself, time management. You invest in understanding, modernizing your experience. That's going to be good for all seasons. That's going to be good for all situations, right? So do that. Invest in yourself, and whatever it happens to be, listening to the podcast, reading some business books, whatever it is, right? Listening to this podcast, right? Listening to, taking a loan officer that's doing well or doing something different, or maybe something that you suck at, but they're doing great at it. Take them out to coffee, take them out to lunch, dinner, or whatever.
Absolutely.
Learn from them. Like, be a student right now. Right now, be a student. Set yourself up for the next decade, because there's going to be a lot of change, and you want to be the best.
Jason, that is some awesome, great advice. Really thank you. I could talk to you for hours, and I know you don't have that time, either do I, but I really appreciate you being on the show. Look forward to getting to know you more. Where can people find you?
Yeah. So look, you can Google my name, go LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I'm LinkedIn and Facebook are probably the channels that I use the most, but mortgagexpodcast.com. You could check out, I have two. So one is I have my MortgageX podcast that I do with Christine. I have the Mortgage Interrupt podcast that I just do on myself, a little bit more raw and uncut, candid type of, back and forth. I produce the Next Level Loan Officer podcast. So those guys always have great guests. Highly recommend you check out there. But mortgagexpodcast.com, you can connect to me on there. You can connect to Christine. And get into. I have a mastermind group on Facebook that's free to join, where I do, monthly sales and marketing calls there. I'm just, look, I'm here to help. I have, the last thing I'll just say real quick is that, look, I'm not for everybody. I know I may be blunt. I may be candid about this, but what I said in the beginning is why I said it in the beginning, is to understand that I have a deep passion and drive to help the originators, you out there listening to this podcast, be successful. That is my number one drive, because with, like I said, I wasn't just being like, facetious. Like, you are the engine that drives the car. Without you, I'm doing something differently. I love what I do. I love originators. I love everything about this industry, and I want it to endure. And so that's why I push so hard to make sure that loan officers are in the best position to succeed.
Man, I love it. I'll be sending some people your way for sure. Jason, thank you so much.
Thank you
I
so
really
much, Dan.
appreciate your time, and
Great
we'll
talk.
talk again soon.
All right. Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
Jason. See ya.
Bye.